This is the presentation of our monitoring journey guide for regions. It is developed by Tecnalia team in the context of NBRACER project. And I am Carolina Cantergiani, but the team involved also counts with the participation of Sayo Zorita and Igone Garcia. This NBRACER project is meant to accelerate the transformation toward climate resilient regions with nature-based solutions perspective. It works with demonstrating and replicating regions in the Atlantic biogeographical area. This monitoring journey was developed in the context of NBRACER and is compiling knowledge and experiences raised over the last few years in the NBS European arena. So the initiatives that we have been part of are the project Pathways to Resilience, for example, Network Nature, together with the task force's activities, the Me4Adapt in the context of mission of adaptation to climate change. And just to mention that the stats presented have been selected based on the established methodologies, the feasibility and the easiness to implement. Some considerations before you go through the steps is that the goal of this guidance is to support the definition of monitoring strategy and a monitoring plan at regional level. The specific goal is assessing the impact of the implementation of specific NBS. The content presented is not the only existing methodology, just important to consider. And we have developed this guidance in 8 steps that we are presenting in a while. It's a compilation of experience and practical examples, and we try to use accessible language so that any user, any reader can really understand, even if they don't have in-depth knowledge in a specific topic. And the idea is that we make it available to a wider public beyond the regions involved in NBRACER. And mention as well that this is aligned with the regional resilience journey developed by the Pathways to Resilience project. For each step, you will find a list of the objectives. We have the main text with description, the methodologies, examples, development of actions, etc. And we have included a success checklist so that the region can go there and check what they already have. And in case they want to skip some step or start from different step that not in a sequence, in the sequence presented. The document also includes a glossary of the key terminology used. For example, monitoring strategy and monitoring plan that are the main goals of this guide. Supporting monitoring strategy and monitoring plan. So monitoring strategy provides an overarching approach and rationale for monitoring activities, outlining the goals, objectives, and the KPIs that will be used to measure the success. It's understanding the why and the what. And the monitoring plan details the specific methods for conducting monitoring activities. It's very much more operational focus, and it specifies the data collection methods, the timelines, and responsibilities. It's understanding the how, when, and who. These are the These are the 8 steps that are included in this guideline, and we will present them one by one. Step 1, establishing a monitoring team. The objectives of step 1 are setting a regional monitoring team, considering the local expertise, defining roles and responsibilities within the monitoring team, enhancing accountability, facilitating continuous communication and improvement, and facilitating resource allocation in future steps. It's important when establishing the regional monitoring team to have a clear structure and a shared holistic understanding to guide the NBS monitoring impact assessment. Important to point out a team leader that will be responsible for engaging the relevant stakeholders and ensuring this collaboration and communication among them. And it's important at this stage also to define clear roles and responsibilities and the resources used during the monitoring activities. Step 2, understand the baseline. The objectives of step 2 are defining the baseline conditions, scope and scale, collecting and analyzing current environmental, social, and economic conditions, identifying data and capacity gaps that could hinder effective monitoring and evaluation, and identifying sources to build monitoring strategy. For these, we have different frames, and we have presented some of them in the guideline. And just to mention that stakeholder engagement is a central component to scope for this scope and problem framing. Step 3, establish a vision for NBS impact. The objectives of step 3 are defining the challenges and impact that NBS, or in the case, the NBS portfolio, should address and achieve, and crafting a vision statement that can guide the selection and implementation of NBS, aligning with the region's priority and challenges. Here we have included a method of 4 steps to establish this vision, although there are many other different ways to establish this vision. It's important to consider that if this regional vision already exists, they have to be considered and taken into account. So we just have to review it and use them as a foundation instead of starting from zero. These 4 steps are for establishing the vision. The example that we include is first understanding the purpose of the visioning. The second one is engaging the stakeholder in the visioning process. That can be done in different ways. In this case, we have mentioned workshops, services, public surveys, and public forums. The third step would be vision development. We have included different methods, for example, foresight or theory of change. The theory of change is a very accepted way of establishing visions nowadays. And for crafting a vision statement addressing the challenges the NBS should tackle. Step 4, select the NBS to be implemented. The objectives of step 4 are identify NBS options that directly address the region's challenges and vision, setting the most suitable criteria for the characterization and prioritization of the NBS, evaluating the suitability and feasibility of potential NBS, and prioritize and select the NBS. Here, there are a huge list of criteria to be used and considered. We have included an example of among many of the existing ones for frameworking these assessment and selection of NBS. We also include example of feasibility analysis that should be done under different dimensions: environmental, technical, economic, social, political, legal feasibility should be analyzed for defining NBS. Step 5, define the set of KPIs. Objectives of step 5 are identifying appropriate key KPIs to evaluate the expected outcomes derived from the selected NBS, ensuring KPI follows SMART principles. When we mention SMART principle, we mean specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Developing a monitoring and evaluation strategy that builds on the selected KPIs and ensuring the viability of the monitoring and evaluation plan. This is the longest and most developed step of this guide. And we include different ways of establishing these KPIs. And when they'll have the quantitative and qualitative KPIs defined, we can set a monitoring plan and a monitoring infrastructure. And these are 6 steps that are typically used to define the sets of KPIs. They can differ here and there, but most of the frameworks, existing frameworks of defining KPIs follows more or less this sequence. And there are identifying the climate risks and societal challenges linked to the baseline, then connecting the goals with measurable outputs and outcomes, then selecting the most relevant outcomes, then identifying appropriate KPIs for the selected outcomes, agreeing on relevant KPIs and associated methods, and finally, set a monitoring plan. And on the right, we include the monitoring plan example on where we define what, how, evaluation plan, the data management, the storage plan that should be included in this more holistic plan. Step 6, pre-implementation monitoring. The objectives of step 6 are establishing the reference condition to provide a starting point to measure change and impact over time, identifying data gaps and issues to ensure data comparability and representativeness, and refining monitoring methods if needed, and mitigate potential monitoring risks. Here again, we present a scheme for with the conditions for this pre-implementation monitoring on the agreement of KPIs and data collection, and ensuring that the data are representative, reliable, and relevant, and mainly if there are any existing regular gathering of data in the regions to consider and make use of it within this data gathering. And in theory, the NBS implementation should be done between steps 6 and 7. It means we should establish the pre-implementation monitoring, then the NBS should be implemented, and then we should go to step 7, that is the post-implementation monitoring. Step 7, post-implementation monitoring. The objectives of this step are carrying out the monitoring after the NBS has been implemented to assess whether expected outcomes are being achieved, to track the operation and maintenance of the NBS to ensure continued benefits over time. These on the right are some considerations that must be taken for this post-implementation. If possible, to continue tracking the same KPIs, very important so that we can compare it and have coherent results. If possible, use the same teams and protocols. Reporting and communicating results is very important as well. We have to have all the steps registered somehow. Complement monitoring with other tools and methods. Plan for long-term monitoring beyond the project, and include considerations for maintenance and management. The last step, step 8, undertake impact assessment. This is the main overall goal of the 8 steps and this monitoring journey. The objectives of step 8 are evaluating NBS effectiveness against the pre-implementation baseline and track progress towards goals, supporting adaptive management to adjust, scale, or replicate NBS interventions based on evidence, informing planning on future policy and NBS design, implementation, and monitoring approaches, and if relevant, provide evidence for funders, policymakers, or relevant stakeholders on the return of investment. Thank you.